Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Good to talk to all of you again, and I hope your week has been pretty damn good. So here we go. We're going to look at this epic battle, which happened a couple of days ago when I was playing with my Montana. So, aside from that, it's tier 10 battle. Decently balanced, I would say. Both teams have 3 tier 10 battleships, although the enemy team does have the Yamato, which is an advantage over Montana. But other than that, we have an extra battleship. They have a small advantage in terms of destroyers, in terms of just numbers, but we do have a Habarovsk and a Shima, and they've got a Gearing and Shimakaze. So overall, pretty well balanced, although the Yamato advantage could play a role. Although having carriers, especially midways, do in a way negate some of those advantages. Had this battle been just battleships and there's not a carrier in sight, then I would say that the enemy team, at least in terms of battleships, has the advantage. The Yamato is... Oh, how do I describe Yamatos these days? I feel like when you fight a Yamato, it's almost like the equivalent of a small boss fight in an MMO. Okay, not a small fight. A rather large boss fight in an MMORPG, just because it seems to take so many shots to really, really hurt the Yamato, and when you knock it down a bunch, the Yamato presses that heal button and, the HP just comes right back up. So, yeah, not really fun if there are no carriers, although with the carriers, it does help, just because the Yamatos themselves have to be more consciously aware that the carrier can punish them. So anyhow, me and Riley, both in Montanas with Aerial Ace in a Yamato, we decide that what we're going to do is we're sort of going to hang around cap here. It is a 1-cap domination map, so there's really no need to aggressively push up. And we're going to try and just kind of whittle the team down and prevent them from really attacking out midway, and then basically giving out midway a chance at just dealing as much damage as possible, especially since the midway captain that we got is actually one of the better carrier captains in the game, so that's not a bad thing at all. So we spot the enemy Yamato first, and it's Kwandu, and he's actually one of the better Yamato players. So we immediately decide that we need to focus him down early on, at least do as much damage as possible. Myself and Riley in Montana's, we're really just firing HE at Kwandu. And this is probably the one exception to the battleship firing AP at other battleships rule, is the Montana versus the Yamato. And it has a lot to do with the way that the current overmatch ratio is set. So right now, the Yamato's bow, I think, which has 32 millimeters of armor, requires 14.3 times more of that value to be able to penetrate it with armor piercing, which means that the Yamato, which is 32 millimeters of bow armor with that overmatch ratio, has to need a gun that's 457 millimeters in size in order to penetrate it, and right now in the game, the only one that can do it is another Yamato. So as a Montana, if a Yamato is bow onto you, the chances of you penetrating it with armor-piercing 16-inch shells is not that good at all. In fact, my experience with the Montana versus the Yamato matchup seems to be that HE tends to be more reliable, and you treat the Yamato like it's a boss, and you just try to rain down as much stuff as you humanly can onto that battleship and kill it with fire. Yep, that's pretty much the only thing you can really do. And it's not like we're doing all that bad with it. I mean, at this point in time, I think I've already done like 15,000 damage to Kwandu with, mostly HE and a little bit of fire damage, and everybody else is kind of racking up some damage, and Kwandu's at least he's taking damage, which is nice. And not only that, but by taking such sustained fire, Kwandu does actually back away, which is good because you don't want a Yamato to get comfortable in a bow on position and push onto you, just because, like I mentioned earlier, with the way that the overmatch criteria works, you will never pen a Yamato if it's rushing towards you. Well, I mean, you will, but I mean, first of all, it's got to be like point blank range, and second of all, you've got to hit like a very, very specific spot, which is incredibly hard to do the minute the battleship is moving and is outside of 2 kilometers. So, yep, at least the fires are working, right? Who knew? Battleships on battleships. We'd all just be firing HE away at stuff. Yeah, I kind of feel depressed doing that, to be honest. I actually really prefer the armor-piercing engagements. It's just, feels like there's so much skill. When I just fire HE, I just feel dirty. I feel like I can take a shower after this. Anyhow, I mean, we've burned Quandu. He's down quite a bit of HP. And just watch the Yamato's magic heal is going to bring him like straight up afterwards. But, hey, we've done decent damage. We've dropped him from like 90,000 HP down to 30,000, 20-something thousand. That's nice, right? That's nice. So, at least it's pretty much one Yamato temporarily out of action. It's also nice that we happen to be playing on one cap domination mode. If this was the 4 cap domination, I think we'd be in a lot more trouble, just because if we're spending so much of our time focused on one battleship, the enemy team can go around and do other stuff. But at least on a 1 cap domination, it's okay, just because we don't really have to worry about them capping us all that early on. Gives us more time to focus down stuff at the beginning. So Quandu, pretty much out of the action for the next little while. We've done good damage, dropped into like 20k. That's good. Then we move into the 7-8 lines, and here we're really trying to fight against the stuff over islands if possible. And oh, I made a bad turn there. Made a bad turn. The Benson manages to get some torpedoes onto me. Thank goodness I only managed to take 1. So not too bad. 1 torpedo is not the end of the world. Enemy battleship shoots, but I turn in, cutting down the range to the shells, and don't really take any big hits. So that's good. Generally speaking, by the way, it's preferable to my experience to usually turn out, but in certain situations, especially when, let's say, you're fighting over an island, you could actually turn in, just because if you think about it, when they're aiming at you over an island, and let's say you were reasonably close to it, and they're reasonably close to it as well, the shell arc is a bit lower, and so if you think about it, that should, in a way, give you the ability to turn in and maybe dodge a couple of shots. Yay! My first good AP hit of the game. 2 shots, managed to get it over the island. Managed to pen, it did about 8,000 damage. So that's pretty damn good. But we get into a situation where we're not exactly in the best of positions here. I'm turning away, which is alright for me, but my 2 division mates, they're in a slightly more awkward position. Riley's turned and hit an island, and Ariel is going to come in, and he's going to sort of point his bow north. And remember those destroyers that were there earlier? Yeah, so Ariel's going to be in trouble pretty darn soon. I didn't want to go into that area just because I knew that, first of all, there was a wall of battleships in front, and I also knew there were a whole bunch of DDs up close, and it was just not a good place to be in a battleship, just because you either expose your broadside or expose yourself to torpedoes. Not a very good place to be. Ariel, however, gets into that awkward spot, and the Benson is able to get really, really close, like 3-something kilometers, and is able to fire off waves of torpedoes. Yeah. As a Yamato, not much you can do, just because you're not really getting away, and oh yeah. I finally figured out that on the replays, if you point your mouse at a spot where your shells cannot shoot over, the reticle thing kind of drops down onto the island, and you see it very clearly that you can't shoot over. But in game, when you're using the normal reticule, you don't see it at all, so it looks like you can shoot at the ship, but it doesn't happen. So I guess that was my kind of crappy luck there. I could have finished off the Benson, I think, or at least done some more heavy damage to it. Oh well. Not everything goes according to plan. Do manage to get a decent salvo onto that Baltimore there. 5 hits, 10,000 damage. Aerial ace, poor guy, he's gone. Riley is still very much stuck. And, oh, by the way, speaking of which, for Riley, this was a total anal clenching moment. Just because for the next couple of minutes, I think, at least for the next minute or so, he is going to get torped, he's going to get bombed, he's going to get set on fire. He's not going to be in a really nice place, and yeah, just watch. He is going to survive with, like, the barest of HPs. Like, oh, look at that. Just watch, just watch. There's 3,000, there's 2,000. HP going down. Hey, I got a couple hits there. That's awesome. 1,000 HP. And right around this, 1,180 HP, I think. And then luck. Just watch the luck here. Just unbelievable. Sean manages to take out the cruiser, which is good. So no finishing shots coming from that cruiser. Ooh, ouch. Took hits from the Yamato, nothing too major though, only 4,000 HP. Watch Riley, 800 HP, but he got off that one lucky heal. He got that one lucky heal going for him, and with that one lucky heal, he's going to be able to get out of there. I do land a pretty decent hit there on that cruiser, so hopefully that deters him a little bit from approaching us and firing at Riley some more. Riley's of course like, oh my god, I'm going to get out of here and I'm going to hide behind this island as quickly as I humanly can, and all the time taking fire. So at this point in time, what I basically told Riley is, okay, you come here, hide behind this island, and what I'll do is I'll try to move up in front of you so I become the primary target and they shoot at me. At the current moment, the enemy team still has the advantage just because they have 2 Yamatos and they still have a full HP Montana. So as of the moment, advantage to the enemy team. However, our carrier has a bit of an advantage on the enemy midway just because we actually have a strike package midway and the enemy team doesn't. Now the midway is interesting because people talk about the midway and they say, well, which kind of setup is better? Even now, even with the implementation of things like the fighter barrage, where I can see the potential uses for the 2-1-2 setup, I do still think that the strike midway is still more useful, just because there is that chance, at least per game, that you're going to be able to kill something. And I think that potential for killing something is more important than maybe doing some damage. So if you're out there playing a midway, I would definitely say stick to the 1-2-2 and, you know, just get used to how to play your carrier and get used to barraging stuff with your lone fighter. If you do it correctly, you should be able to get a decent amount of strikes every single time. So here I go, moving up the 7 line, and what I'm most likely going to be doing is just moving into the bottom portion of the F7 box. I'm going to stop and I'm going to hold position there and try to deter the enemy ships from pushing down the flank. One other thing I can do in that position is also give a little bit of a protection to Riley. What I'll be doing is, because I'm further up on the same line, and for the enemy planes to bomb him, they've got to approach him from the side. So if I'm in front of him and I'm providing a cover, I'm going to shoot down some of those planes before they can get to him, which should minimize the damage that Riley will take. So getting up here, and I'm focusing on the planes, and I'm just trying to shoot down as many as I can. While the Montana's A is actually pretty good, there is the issue where there is no barrage ability, so you're really depending on the DPS of your 40mm Bofors to really try to bring down airplanes. Still managed to shoot down a decent number in that first wave, so that's good, and I shoot a little bit more down the next wave. Enemy Yamato, however, is facing me in a position that I'm not too fond of fighting with a Yamato in, especially when I'm in Montana, because, like I mentioned earlier, can't pen the bloody thing. The Yamato really has no problems penetrating because of that overmatch criteria, as I mentioned earlier, but the Montana, it's just, ugh. I think unless I get like perfect broadside, otherwise no chance at all. Speaking of the Montana, there is something else I've been experimenting with lately on the Montana, just like other modules. I do find that I am starting to like the fire control, like the not the fire control, the fire rate module a little bit more, the one where you sacrifice turret traverse for rate of fire. I am starting to like it a little bit more. Now, for those of you out there who are struggling with your Montana still, you might want to try to swap out the module that you have in your 3rd slot for this particular one. It seems to be nice just because you can reload quickly, and while not that useful against Yamatos per se, it could be more useful against things like cruisers. So I'm firing HE at the Yamato again, just because, like I mentioned earlier, more consistent damage, why the hell not? So fired a decent broadside salvo as I'm watching the Yamato sort of reverse out, and I'm thinking, okay, he's out of sight, I should be safe. I try to make a turn, and just that last like little bit of a second there, that Yamato had managed to get a salvo off, and ouch, I took something like 26,000 damage there. Ow. And yeah, all the while all I could do was fire HE, so that kind of sucked. But Anyways, this battle's at least going to have a good ending. That I can promise. Sean's having a lot of fun. Because strike midway against a 2-1-2 midway. He's got the power and he's absolutely making good on it, as Sean already has 4 kills. And by this point in time, he is actually the only one on our team that has any kills at all. Me, Riley, and yeah, well, we just didn't get any kills. Finally, the Yamato gives me a broadside. Finally! And I fire off a salvo. Didn't get as lucky because the Yamato actually slowed down, and by the time my shells got there, only kind of clipped the rear a little bit, but I do manage a Citadel. My first Citadel in the game against this Yamato. It's like, oh, it's like, that's how hard it is. It's once in a while you kind of get lucky enough that you get that Citadel hit, but yeah, there's just, it sucks. It sucks to be a Montana captain. You're not really competitive against Yamatos at all. And they kind of penetrate you at all angles with no difficulty whatsoever. But yeah, it's alright. If you get in the right positions, yeah, it works. And of course, you know, if you get close enough, that also is okay, because you can always opt to ram. I mean, Montana is a pretty good battering ram. Oh, and there you go. Sean's claimed already for a little bit earlier there. Kill number 5, so Kraken Unleashed. Mind you, Sean, if you ever watch this, by the way, MVP in this battle, buddy. This is just so many kills. So, yeah, definitely MVP for you there. So, because of Sean's contributions, we have this 2-ship advantage, the advantage on points, and with like 3 minutes and 50 somewhat seconds left in the match, we figured, you know what? We're just going to go up the middle here, and we're going to push hard, and we're going to try to just make it a decisive end to the game. And, you know, pretty much till now, it's been Sean doing all the carrying, and the rest of us, we've done damage here and there, a smattering of damage here and there, but we really haven't done as much, I guess, but so far it's kept us in the lead, so, you know, at least everything's been good so far. And I guess, you know, we messed up Kwandu earlier by taking off so many of his AA guns and stuff with all those high explosive shots. Sorry, Kwandu, that was not intentional. Anyways, yeah, as you can tell, Kwandu doesn't have a lot of HP. They still have 2 Yamatos, which is never a joke, because a Yamato, even bow on in a Montana, they could Citadel you and do tons of damage, so can't take them lightly. So pushing up here, up the middle, and Sean says, I'm detected. So there's probably a DD in that area, so we're like, okay, that means the Fubuki won't be in front of us. Let's push harder. And with Warships, it's interesting to know that sometimes it is that one decisive action, the one decisive thrust that ends up claiming your team the win. So we're pushing really, really hard. Enemy Atago pops up 13 kilometers in front of my Montana, so I send full broadside towards it. And triple Citadel, 4 hits, erase that Atago, 34,000 damage. So there's one less torpedo ship we've got to worry about. So that's good, and that means we've just got to worry about the battleships in front of us. So off we go, and what I'm going to do is I'm really just going to cut between this narrow area here, and primarily I want to cut between this narrow area because when I come out, I will be presenting, in theory, the most angled bow possible to the enemy battleships, so they shouldn't be able to hit me all that hard. I actually do steal a kill here, I believe. I think I should have given this kill to Sean. Yeah, sorry about that, Sean. Should have let you have that one. That would have made for kill number 7. But that's okay. He gets plenty of kills. He's already up at 6. Anyways, I come around this corner, and I see Kwandu in front of me. And I'm like, Montana, Yamato, bow to bow, sort of head-on fight. Not really going to do that much. I try to aim for the spot that would potentially, if RNG goes well, might have done some good damage there, but didn't happen. His first salvo back at me also hits my side armor, so that was okay. I only take 8,000. If I'd taken a Citadel or something, might have just opted for the ram. But now I'm really paying attention to Kwandu. I'm like, okay, if your next shot's at me, then I'm just going to take you out of the battle. But Kwandu fires the next salvo at the battleship behind me, which would have been Riley, who's also closing in. So at this split second, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go after the other Montana. I'm going to ram him. Me and Kwandu, look at how close we got. Like, look at that. That's how much space was between my battleship and his battleship, and I managed not to ram him. I managed to not ram him, although Riley does follow up and actually rams him. So if you actually watch, Riley's going to get him. And I instead turn my attention around to the Montana over there with still like 70,000 HP. Others going to lose some to those torpedoes. But I'm going to get in there and I'm going to do like almost 50,000 damage with that ram. And then Riley behind me also rams his Montana into their Yamato, taking down that battleship as well. And there you go. Decisive action, decisive win for the team. Sean does actually manage to kill the Fubuki too, so he claims like 7 kills. Way to carry the team, Sean. Anyhow, hope you all liked this episode. Have a good one, and I'll talk to all of you again soon.